We have just had an amazing set of shorts, and what I'd like to do is, starting with Cathy, I'd like to start here, and I'd like to move our way through the people that we have here. If you can tell us who you are and the film that you're associated with, please.
Hi, I'm Cathy Tyson, and I was the producer of The Consquence.
Hello, I'm Kammy. I was the writer, director, and in it of The Consquence.
I'm Simon Alveranga, and I was producer of Mouse.
Feel free to adjust that.
I'm Daniel Ellerby, and I was the writer and director of Her Castle.
Hello, my name's Sam Harlow, and I was editor for Her Castle.
Okay, let's start with our first duo here. Where did the idea for The Consquence come from?
It was just a thing about Alex Jones. I don't know if anybody remembers him, the guy that accused parents of lying after their children just been murdered. And he paid the consequence for his actions because ultimately he was sued for $1 billion for telling lies and his followers sending death threats and to the parents. And so that was the inspiration. But we wanted to just change it around a bit and use a right-winger. Not all right-wingers are extremely white, you know. We just wanted to vary it up a little bit. And that's what we did with the film. Sorry, I'm not very good at this, but...
You are.
Doing great.
Kammy watches a lot of American, he knows a lot about American politics, and he was sitting in the living room one day and said, you know, I cannot believe the way these parents are being treated by Alex Jones. They were called crisis actors, and I could see you look disturbed, and I said, why don't you write something about it? And The Consquence is a consequence of that conversation.
Excellent. And Mouse?
Yes.
Sorry, I wasn't referring to you as Mouse there. So talk to us about where the idea of Mouse stemmed from, if you can.
If I can, well, as a producer, the director, Max, approached me with the idea and the script.
Yep.
And I immediately liked it. It resonated with me. It comes from a few places. I know that the director, his father, he has a strained relationship with him. And also he's got small kids that had a small pet chicken that died. So I know that directly inspired the mouse and the mouse funeral, some of the script in there. So, and then we were looking for, you know, we wanted to set it during COVID and sort of touch on that a little bit and what a lot of people have been through with that. So we used that as a backdrop for the film. Yeah.
Excellent. And finally, same question for our Her Castle trio, duo, sorry.
So Her Castle, I think, really came from... I had a friend who was really struggling with her mental health. And instead of washing her clothes, she'd been just buying new clothes, like to sort of fill almost like a void, you know, I think, or something. I don't really know where it came from, but she'd just been buying new clothes and not doing her washing. And one day I went to help her with her washing because it finally got too much. And we filled up so many drums with washing. It was an insane amount of washing and an insane amount of clothes, and she'd just been continuously buying clothes. And that kind of inspired the idea of a hoarder, you know, of someone sort of collecting or keeping stuff as an emotional barrier almost.
And Simon, the Mouse was the first film that I actually watched of the 2024 submissions. So what an amazing way to start off a festival, because if I'm going to be completely honest with you, normally the first film that I watch is the thing that brings me to the edge of suicide. So to have Mouse, I feel absolutely amazing by that story and how touching it was. I appreciate you said earlier on outside about being, you know, only the producer. Mm-hmm. There's no such thing as only the producer.
That's very kind.
And for the best of your ability, talk to us about how that process, because there's been several iterations of Mouse as well, haven't
Yes.
there? And do you want to talk to us about what was there and what you came down to, and if there's any, understanding of why?
Yeah, there were, I think it was 66 cuts.
Right.
Is what we got to in the end. Max was pretty set on the story that he wanted to tell at the beginning. We had quite a definitive script, and storyboard is very well meticulously planned. The only variations really is in length, and obviously when you make a thing, originally I think we set out for it to be about 12 minutes long, and the first cut came in at like 24 minutes. So there's obviously loads in there. So it's just a process of gradually removing stuff, taking things out, and I was urging Max to get it to around 15 minutes, and he had it at 18, which is where he was like, "This is my baby, it's perfect as it is." We sent it out into the world, but we've since revised that down to 15 because I think it just helps it move along through the emotion of the story much quicker.
I thought it was great at 18. I loved it, and 15. That's fine. But yeah, I think you all should kind of look into yourself and turn around. You were right. You were all right with the 18-minute cut, and it was a lovely, touching story. Really, really moved me, and I know looking at some of the selectors' comments how much it touched them as well. So you should all be really, really proud. That's like, I don't know, Christmas Day, BBC One afternoon entertainment at its finest.
But it's I know Max in particular, he is a big believer, and I am as well actually, that if you're going to deliver something that is difficult or traumatic, then you should pepper it with some joy or some fun as well. So there's moments of humour within there, which I think sort of helps alleviate the grief, which is what it's about. It's about a man dealing with his grief. And also we agonised over the title. It was called Dad's at one point, or Dad. And we came to Mouse because it's kind of a distraction, because although the mouse is central and it's the thing that you see, it's not what the film's actually about. It's more about a father-son relationship. So, yeah.
And Kammy.
Oh, hello.
Hello. Your first-time filmmaker. What was it like wearing so many hats?
No, it was okay actually. The hardest thing was, I'm sure any filmmaker here will tell you, is prep. When you get down to it, it's delegate, and time. So, and I think it's always good going into a film knowing exactly more or less what you want. And that helps with time, it helps with people. We knew what mood we wanted to set. We had a great mood board, great DOP, and it presented that. So it was instructing everybody what to do so I could concentrate on the acting when needed. So it was good. It was a good process. I enjoyed it actually. It wasn't as hard as people make it out to be quite honest.
Can I just say congratulations to the other filmmakers as well? And it feels as if some people are here from opening up, but maybe not. And the other one, The Countryman, really loved those films. I also loved the absence of music on the one, what is your film called?
Her Castle.
Her Castle. I mean, I loved the silences and a classic shot of them sitting in front of those dryers. I thought, I wonder if that's the poster. Is it?
It is not the poster, actually. The poster is her in the bathtub. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I also loved her acting.
Thank you. Thank you. That's so
I'd
kind.
be interested to know, was there any rehearsal for her, or with the actors? Sorry, taking over. Sorry.
Take over.
Sorry.
Yeah, rehearsal. So we filmed during COVID, so there was many sort of limitations. and we rehearsed a lot on set on the day. And then in terms of rehearsal before, because we couldn't meet up to rehearse, we sort of had a lot of Zoom calls where we talked about films that were references, that had this sort of style of performance. And for me, in terms of working with Angela, the actor, who is incredible, it was all about stripping the performance down, about stripping it down, bringing it back layer by layer. And then as Elaine, the character, grows sort of and begins to regain her sense of agency and her sense of existence, layering back in the emotion, you know? So it was very much so, in terms of rehearsal, it was a funny thing. It was always like start at a level and then strip it down, and then as we progress through the film, it was about sort of building back up more emotion bit by bit until we get to that ending in the laundromat.
Was the decision to not have any music made at the beginning of the process, or was that something?
Yeah, that was from the very beginning. I think we always said no music, nothing like that. We designed a very sort of specific soundscape that we wanted, you know. It was also, again, a thing about the narrative. This is a film about a woman who feels like she doesn't exist. She doesn't have any everyday agency, you know, suffering with depression and hoarding. And because of that, we didn't want music sort of telling the audience a little bit what to feel, but also you're sat there listening to the sound of her moving through the space, and that's all it is. It's her struggle, it's her strife, you know. You're listening to the rustling, and also you're creating a world beyond the frame, you know. I mean, we talked a lot, as the obviously editor, about not cutting on her movement and about staying with her in that opening shot in the room and just listening to her move past and creating this world off the frame. And we both said, oh, again, it's a film about a woman without agency, so we don't cut on her action, you know? And not until later on in the film when she's regaining that. And it was the same thing with the sound. It was like just the world and the hoard and listening to the sounds of it is what is in control.
The other actor that we should also talk about, I say actor because it was as much a part of the story. All the clutter. I mean, that must have been so time consuming, gathering together all that clutter and then decluttering till, you know, after the shoot. Do you want to talk us a little bit about that process?
A nightmare, an absolute nightmare. My production designer was like, why can't it be a film about a woman who doesn't like having stuff, who likes having nothing? Why have you put me through this? But yeah, in terms of that, it was like, we collected our rubbish.
Stupid amount.
Yeah, rubbish for months and months, and I had a whole, I don't know what your house looked like, my house was a tip.
Basically.
We did that, and then my production designer went around all over like the New Forest, like she'd be like finding random deals, like, oh, 300 VHSs this random lady needs to get rid of. I'll have those, you know.
Yeah.
And everything was marked with stickers, and it was like, this is important, this is not. And even then, we lost so many things. I can't lie, I lost a few prized possessions, unfortunately, in that mess. Yeah, it was an incredible feat. There was a whole, I think, 2 days just purely of getting it in, setting it up. And it's 3 different houses. It's not one house. So each time we had to move all that stuff to a new house. And it was unique props per set. We didn't want to be like, a few things the same, but for the most part, like, we wanted to talk about what each room was in terms of the hall is specific. Yeah.
Cathy.
Hello.
An absolute legend of the screen. And here you are, you're starting again because you're stepping behind. I mean, I know you've had a lot of work on TV this year, but you're stepping behind the scenes, so to
Stepping into
speak.
agency. Let's put it like that.
And I love the fact that you're just like embracing and absorbing everywhere you go. How does that feel to, you know, does it excite you to be in a different angle, so to speak?
I'm learning, it does. I just wanted to thank the audience as well for coming to see the film today. Yes, it does. I'm aware that, you know, I'm, you know, nearly 60, so sometimes I think, I'm driven by, you know,
How old?
there's only so much time I've got to do stuff, but I feel a lot of drive. I just wanted to thank people who've also given me a chance. Natasha Marburger, who was my first producer on my first short, you know, sort of like said, well, it's your vision, you can direct it. Kammy as well, who wrote my first short as well. You know, I just think I'm in a situation where I haven't got years ahead of me. Well, none of us know what time we've got, so to try and make use of it and to earn respect in the new field as well, not just piggyback off the experience of what I've got as an actor, but to remember to earn it.
Yeah.
You know, it's been lovely being here, and you've been such a great humorous host, so thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I just want to ask Kammy one more question. I'm going to go over to the audience. Kammy, which you strike me as being a nice person.
Let me tell you that story. No.
Do you enjoy playing like a bad character? Because you kind of, I feel like you really absorb that.
I seem to play a lot of bad characters, bad people, complex people. So I've been very lucky in that field, mainly in theatre, a little bit on TV. So and it's the years of accumulating experience. So it's very easy to switch off from myself. I'm fun-loving. You can employ me as a fun-loving person. But when it comes to the work, you just got to take it 100% seriously. And as I said, I'm sure if there's any actors in here, and I know there are, playing complex characters is one of the most exciting things you can do. And it's good to do it in a short film. You have very, very little time to be able to express all of that. And it's lovely to shout every now and then. I don't get to do that privately. So yeah, it wasn't difficult.
Have we got any questions out there in our audience? One straight at the front, Mr. Jeff Elson.
Can I first off say that I thought that all the short films were really excellent. I mean, the reason I came in this afternoon was because Spencer said to me, this is the best collection of short films at the festival, and really were excellent. Really good.
Thank you.
My sort of question is for the guys from the Castle. My name is Jeff Elson. I worked in local government for many years. I worked in the housing department, and I worked hand in glove with social services for London Borough and Newham and London Borough Barking and Dagenham. And I've dealt with many of the people that you portrayed in that film. My question really was to ask you whether or not you had any first-hand experience of dealing with those people, because it was such an accurate portrayal of the situations they find themselves in. And the hardest thing that you do when you deal with people who've got those problems is get them to actually open up and communicate with you and ask for help. And there was one scene in particular that I thought was very poignant when all the boxes fall over, because I've dealt with cases like that where it doesn't have a happy ending. The boxes fall on the person and they're there for quite some time. You can end up with a tragic end to that. I mean, personally, I've actually found one old person dead that had a lot of difficulties like that, and we had a report but they hadn't been seen. Unfortunately, when I went in, I was the first one in, I found her dead in the living room. But have you got any sort of personal experience of that? 'Cause it was such an A+ excellent portrayal of the realities of that situation.
I'm really sorry to hear you went through that. That's awful. It's a very sad, reality, isn't it? I actually don't have any personal experience with hoarders. There were people that I talked to sort of help understand the film and develop it and flesh it out and make sure that it felt real. That was very important. I think we kept saying we didn't want it just to be poverty porn, you know? We wanted it to feel real and to feel raw and to feel vulnerable, you know? And in order to do that, we talked to lots of different people. We talked to charities. I talked to a social worker. And it's a student film. It's our graduate film from university. And my lecturer actually lived with a hoarder, which is part of the reason why he chose to help shepherd the project. Yeah, so we got a lot from him. I think for me, in terms of personal experience, the film for me was very much so about dealing with a feeling I think everyone knows, of feeling like you don't exist, you know, and that you don't have agency. For me, like, the hoard is an extension of this woman's trauma, you know, whatever that may be. It wasn't something we wanted to spell out. It's not what the film is about, and what she's suffering with. And yeah, that feeling, I think that, yeah, everyone knows, especially during COVID, where when you're robbed of the things that make us feel alive, we feel like we don't exist and we don't matter, you know? Which is why, again, the ending is just a woman having a hot meal for the first time in a long time. But yeah, no personal experience, yeah.
You got it spot on.
Thank you. That's great to hear. I'm really glad to hear. Yeah, we worked really hard to try our best to do that, and it means a lot to hear that. So thank you.
Any other questions out there? There's one right in the middle. Cathy.
Hi everyone, and congratulations on all of you. Thoroughly enjoyed the films. So different yet so emotive. I have a question for Kammy. I wanted to ask you, towards the end of the film, there is, as the way I've interpreted, the violence against women seems to have to reflect the violence against the words. So I wanted to know why, for example, you chose to punctuate the film with the violence, which is perfect for me, but I wanted to understand more of your thinking, punctuating the film with the violence against women, and was that on purpose?
The whole point was, having the ending was, obviously she was traumatised, but it was also a fact of, where is your empathy? That's what he wanted to push her with. It's all about empathy and understanding. I mean, the character itself is an amalgamation of people like Katie Hopkins, Suella Braverman, all of those. You know, the fact that Suella Braverman's dream was to send people to Rwanda. I mean, who has a dream like that? It's very, very weird. So, you know, it's an amalgamation of that. It's to say, and forgive me, it wasn't put out purposely to terrorise women. It was really to terrorise an idea, a philosophy, and that was the whole point of it. It was regardless of sex. Or anything like that. Unfortunately, you know, the most vocal, especially in government, are people like Suella and Katie Hopkins. In America, it's quite different, actually. It's usually the men, but in this country, it seems to be the women who are more vocal in their right-wing activism, as it were. So, does that answer your question? Yeah, it was just a point of, you know, it was an arc. She's learned her lesson. She knows what it feels like, you know.
The thing about the violence against women, I said to Kammy, as, you know, in one of the scripts, he's got to have the consequence of his actions. So he rewrote the script. And that's why the police officer spoke about, you're not going to get away with this. But also when you look at Asif's character, this is a man who has been terrorised himself, not by her, but by trolls, had to leave his house. So he's
Which
not...
was caused by her.
Started off, yeah. But he's not had the grief counselling. So this is a man who's unhinged, right? And is acting in that way. And the police officer, after I spoke to Kammy, and said he's got to have the what is the message here? So he wrote that in where the chief superintendent or the detective said, even if she's not pressing charges, I'm going to. So I'm glad we thought about that. And women and men must face the consequences of their actions as well. Women need to be responsible for what they say, as well as men, and do.
Everybody has
That's
to.
right.
Be careful what you say, be careful what you do as well. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you for the question.
Have we got one more? Go on. Right, over here.
Sorry.
No.
A bit embarrassing about this question actually. Beautiful films, thank you so much. I felt like every story, the people making the films, the actors, sewed their heart to the story that they told. So beautiful. Bit embarrassing question, like funding. Where does that come from? Where do you get your money?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so I put half of this money into this film. It cost £26,000 to make ours. Some features are made on £11,000. I like to be upfront about the money because when I'm in the audience, I want to see if I can make what that person's made.
Yeah.
And Kammy knew some people, and he showed them the first short we did, Lillian, and that person spoke to another person, and they wanted to come on board and support us. We were lucky there. And so half was from me and half was from
other people.
4 other people in this case. But I am prepared to fill in application forms as well, you know, for the feature and stuff. So that's where it came from, my wages, from other things I've done.
That's belief.
And everybody was paid on the film apart from myself.
And me.
You were paid for the script, remember? Very little. You were paid for both
Yeah,
scripts.
but I put money into it as well.
Yeah, okay.
Not as much.
Sorry, I did say 4 people, didn't I?
Simon?
It was self-funded by the director and the production company he works for, Rogue. He's commercial director, so and Rogue are primarily a commercials production company, and by promoting him and the work that he does with films like this, it helps him be more marketable. But there are many different ways of funding a film. But he was pretty tired of waiting around for BFI and the likes of that. They take ages and ages to tell you no. So yeah, just cracked on with it. I'm currently producing another short at the moment where, again, the director, the DOP, they all have scraped some money together, but only enough for production. So currently trying to get post-production sorted out on the cheap, which thanks to modern technology is possible, but my advice would be, you know, just get out and make it however you can.
Can I just say to everybody, you're probably aware on IMDb, what production budgets are there?
How about yourselves?
So our film was funded a mixture of ways. I think half of it was funded for a crowdfunder, which we had to do as part of our course. Part of the, we had to raise the money and put out crowdfunder. It's sort of one of the units was like film funding and distribution. So half of the money came that way, and that was a real battle to do that. We found that we had to really beg everyone for money. That year it was like, no Christmas presents, no birthday, we want money for our film basically. Which I've been told, if you're ever doing a crowdfunder, that is the way to do it. Anyone you know, anyone who you think might want to give a little bit of money, or a friend of a friend or whatever, you just say, this year, I don't want that coffee, I don't want this, I'd like money from a crowdfunder. And it worked. We got half the money, which is about, I think, £3,500. And then the rest of it, we were fortunate that the university gave each of the crew members $250 towards contributing towards the budget. And then the rest of it was all a mixture of our own money. And then I had to work to fund basically the last leg of the film, the post-production, festivals and all of that. Yeah, and that's sort of how the funding came together.
Wonderful. On our crew as well, just wanted to say everybody and cast got paid the London living wage and they got their transport paid for as well. So that's how we did it. The feature will be different. They'll be getting more money.
You've all had a hand in what you've done here, and it was worth your investment, all of you, because you've all created amazing films. And what Jeff said, you know, as a block of films, I think this is one of the strongest blocks that we've had, and I think you all deserve an enormous round of applause.